Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us at the Safety and Security Asia's webinar on securing the future in the new normal, with over 480 registrants. Today's webinar is co-organized by Conference and Exhibition Management Services and Security Systems Association of Singapore, with Frost and Sullivan as our strategic knowledge partner. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Anthony Lee. Anthony Lee, CPP, PSP, CBCP, is the Regional Safety and Security Advisor, Asia Pacific at British Council. Previously, he was the Director of Global Safety, Risk and Security APEC of Ironman Inc. From 2005 to 2015, he was Senior Director of Security and Facilities, APEC and ME at Ingram Micro Inc. He has also held global security and business continuity management roles in Singapore Airlines and SP Group, respectively. As the immediate past Senior Regional VP, South and Southeast Asia, Group 13 of ACES International, Anthony has provided oversight to 10 ACES chapters. He was also a member and previous chairman of ACES International Asia Pacific Advisory Council and was the chairman of ACES Singapore chapter from 2006 to 2009. From 2009 to 2015, Anthony was appointed by Singapore Workforce Development Agency as a council member of the Security Industry Skills and Training Council. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Chloe. The current COVID-19 pandemic has presented new safety and security challenges, including duty of care responsibilities. From a corporate security management angle, physical security is the integration of people, procedures, and technology deployed to safeguard people, property, and information, and to prevent unauthorized access to assets. Overcoming the current challenges and seizing new opportunities in a pandemic, many businesses across industries have remarkably achieved at least 2 years of digital transformation within a short span of 2 months. We trust that today's physical security webinar will enhance our understanding of COVID-19 impact, as well as insights into new and innovative security solutions in order to provide a secure yet safe environment in the new normal of lives and livelihood. Our keynote speaker today is Ms. Georgia Adele, Consulting Analyst for Mobility, Aerospace, Defense and Security from Frost & Sullivan. Based in Japan, Georgia has deep security domain expertise with a focus on drone and autonomous vehicle deployment, RFID and biometrics, sensor access systems, and airport security automation. In addition, she is a frequent speaker at industry events and webinars on topics related to cyber risk trends, emerging drone technologies, and security risk management. The majority of her time is spent in the field, developing relationships with key stakeholders so that they can manage security risks without compromising on business growth. Today, she'll be sharing with us on the impact of COVID-19 in the security industry. Over to you, Georgia.
Thank you, Anthony. And thank you everyone for joining us. Let me just share my screen. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm Georgia Adele, Consulting Analyst for Frost & Sullivan, Aerospace, Defense and Security Business Unit. If you don't know, Frost & Sullivan is a research and consulting company. We're focused on helping our clients achieve growth. We have offices worldwide. I'm originally Canadian, but I'm based in our Tokyo office. And we cover many different business units from mobility to industrial automation to healthcare and so on. But of course, security is a topic that is relevant to all industries. especially in the rapidly and drastically changing world that we exist in today. So with that said, we're going to explore the impact of COVID-19 on the security industry and what that implies in terms of future opportunities. So today we'll cover 3 areas. I'll briefly look at the global economy and the COVID impact on that. Then we'll look at the impact of COVID on the security industry specifically, and focus on the growth opportunities, especially in the post-COVID industry. So we're all aware of the tremendous impact that COVID-19 has had on the world economy. This is Frost's analysis of world GDP growth. We can see negative for all 4 quarters of 2020, and it will appear to have significant growth in Q2 of next year, but we'll come back around the non-COVID growth scenario around Q4 of next year. So I won't spend a lot of time on this. We'll go right into the impact on security spending. So we have 2 potential scenarios of how COVID-19 will impact the security industry. In the first, we see the public sector maintaining their committed investments in the short term, but the private sector will downsize and delay contracts. This illustrates the theme of security investments geared towards operational continuity over capability enhancement for the next 1 to 2 years. In other words, we'll see more companies spending to maintain their operations in the form of investments for improving remote working and safety in shared spaces, rather than major upgrades to security capabilities. In the second scenario, we also see a reduction in security spending in the short to medium term that's impacted by the decline of specific sectors, if you think about airports or theaters and live music venues. But this is offset by the investment in capabilities to address the rise in tech-enabled attacks. In the long term, we see spending cut by at least 10%. Futuristic programs and new acquisitions are most likely to be cut, and both the public and private sector will try to optimize investment. So here is our forecast for total security industry spending globally by scenario. So the light blue lines shows the pre-pandemic scenario that saw growth of about 7% per year. In the prolonged recovery scenario, that's the scenario 1 that I talked about on the last slide, almost all areas of security spending will witness a decrease. This is also the expected scenario considering the time to implement vaccines and the ongoing outbreaks around the world. In the accelerated scenario, that is scenario 2, there are certain subsegments that are severely impacted while others just stagnate. So like I said, there are certain subsegments that are impacted far more heavily than others due to the nature of the crisis. We all know how the pandemic has devastated the aviation industry, crippling demand, curtailing operations. A pre-COVID CAGR of almost 12% has been knocked down to less than 3% in the anticipated scenario. As airports and airlines are trying to bring flights back online and trying to resume new normal operations, there will be increased investment in creating low-touch environments. There was already a trend of automation underway, and this will serve to solidify that course. But the lack of cash flow will mean that investment is very strategic, and other potential security upgrades that were planned will remain future goals for now. Similarly, land, port, and mass transit are dealing with lower volumes, and but this will not impact these segments as drastically as airports. The risk of contagion associated with mass transit will probably shift passengers to alternative mobility solutions. This creates new security opportunities outside of the mass transit space, but probably not immediately. Urban mobility is a space where there's a lot of exciting change happening, and physical security needs to be built into the systems and cities that they connect with. Oil and gas security is the only area that will not decrease investment in security in either scenario. There's a lot of major investment going on for cybersecurity as well as physical security in this space. Banking and finance is another area to witness a significant drop in security expenditure. There's more spending going towards remote working capabilities and the security of remote transactions. And banks were further along than many industries in their digitalization processes. So spending will go into hardening those systems that are already in place. They'll take longer to get back to their pre-COVID budgets because they've had to stop and start recovery based on changing lockdowns and continued outbreaks. And the slowed consumer interactions means that they don't have the budget for big security upgrades until further along in the recovery. So the pandemic has impacted supply chains in all industries, and security is no exception. In terms of system integrators, the lack of new projects from OEMs limits how service-oriented suppliers can reach their end users. There could be a shift towards in-house integration to limit outside personnel. One simple example is the physical security personnel required on site and the greater reliance on technology. Here in Tokyo, we saw a rapid adoption of handheld thermometers at shops and restaurants. And then quickly that's giving way to automated thermal cameras that require fewer staff to operate, and they can also be at a greater distance from the patrons. We also witnessed multi-country manufacturing disruptions earlier in the year with factory closures. And beyond that, slower demand can put upward pressure on commodity prices. In terms of extended project timelines, as I mentioned, airports have been seriously impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, with many program timelines extended. Also, 5G spectrum auctions in Portugal, Austria, Spain, France, that were planned for April 2020 were all delayed for later in the year, potentially shifting later auctions as well. And of course, the Tokyo Olympics are a poignant example of extended project deadlines, because the postponement will shift all major security, event security and additional security projects by over a year to accommodate the new Olympic timeline. Another major impact is on downstream distributor availability. We see that it's equally possible that there will be a lack of local projects, or on the other hand, that local projects will pull local distributors away from OEM projects. There's also been serious impact on demand for security investment. One consequence of the pandemic is that the government will be the group most able to allocate new security contracts. We see government agencies demanding data analysis and public safety and response coordination. On the other hand, private security contracts will decline as firms focus on internal operations. New contracts are more likely to focus on maintenance, support, and small-scale upgrades. With the huge shift to remote working environments, remote and cloud access are incredibly important. Secure connections, zero trust, or continuously validating security, multi-factor authentication, and security as a service will all be important offerings in enabling security for remote workers. In terms of private sector investment, existing projects will be completed and paid for, but the timelines will be extended, as I mentioned. In the longer term, there will be an increased focus on contactless solutions, biometrics, and remote access and authentication. The last point is that there will be a shift away from on-site consultations, as well as a shift from reliance on outside contractors to in-house personnel or remote service. And this is again to reduce face-to-face contact. Risk, not reactivity, should influence the security decisions of businesses. We're in a pandemic that has necessitated working from home for many of us, causing many companies to react. This isn't wrong, it's necessary. Even the companies that were best equipped to handle the drastic shift in communication and server access came across new issues with authentication. The question is whether these security solutions being implemented now will fit future business needs after the pandemic. That's why it makes sense to find more use cases for existing and newly implemented solutions, as well as diversify the point solutions in place in line with current needs. We'll see a decline in industry-specific solutions and an expansion of solution capabilities to fit multiple use cases. In terms of global partnership networks, many companies are recognizing the consequences of overhead costs of multiple localized offices. And this may mean that they shutter their regional offices, but don't exit the market necessarily, instead localizing their presence through local partners and distributors to save on overhead costs during the downturn. Partnership networks can also address manufacturing concerns that we witnessed at the start of the year. We'll also see a slow shift away from CapEx arrangements as the revenue disruptions from long-term CapEx agreements will move customers to embrace an OpEx model. Cost efficiency, performance management, software updates, and remote monitoring are key tenets of any OpEx agreement. So in the short term, there is a focus on business continuity above all else, but the pandemic has revealed opportunities for security vendors in partnership and acquisition, market expansion through technology, through supply chain optimization, and through increasing the technical capabilities of existing solutions. So let's consider the opportunities for the security industry in the commercial sector, or to think about it from the other side, what the commercial sector will require in the new normal. So right now and in the near term, sensors represent a great opportunity. Providers and integrators should consider what sensors are already in place and how they can be utilized in new and relevant use cases. You can consider a building that has a surveillance system in place. Can this same system be used to enforce social distancing or wearing masks? Related to this is modularity and security by design. This refers to a system that can't be hacked and is able to be reconfigured and adapted for rapidly changing use cases. This means it's easy to install, can meet needs immediately, and is still useful after COVID. An example of this could be a security provider retooling their analytics for temperature sensing to be used for fever detection. The key in this time frame is using what a security vendor has in their product offerings and seeing how it can be used differently to meet current needs. Post-COVID or post-vaccine, the opportunity for security lies in plug-and-play solutions for surveillance. Rather than very involved systems, end users will opt for modular or even temporary solutions. And this speaks to the adoption of security as a service. For example, a convention center may opt to bring in security materials as needed, depending on the type of event that they have, rather than installing permanent security flows. Or a city could move their security and surveillance equipment around based on analysis of incidents that are informing where the technology is needed. In the long term, we'll see the digitalization of legacy solutions. Old access control systems will feel obsolete and companies will have more cash available, so they'll begin investing in modernizing these solutions. This is also when we expect to see a retooling of COVID-specific tools and a move to more generic dashboarding. This is also related to multimodal and contactless solutions, and we'll see a continued move to biometric authentication. Finally, we'll see a move to equality in terms of private-public partnerships. In the past, we saw the private sector held advantage because it had the financial power. but COVID has made public safety catch up technology-wise. So we'll see the public sector become more of a technology partner in the future on par with the commercial side. So what are the next steps? For building managers, property developers, and architects, it's important to consider the diversity of the solutions employed. Consider the providers that you partner with, not only in how they meet your needs today, but in how they approach future-proofing. For security providers, enabling modular changes to existing products is the key to meeting current needs. To go back to sensors, this is a very important area to be conscious of. Sensors of all types, physical, connected devices, access points, will remain in high demand from all customers, particularly those that can gather various types of data or provide multiple types of data analysis to meet differing operational requirements. Maintaining secure remote access is critical for both security providers and end users. Contactless remote access and monitoring will be one of the key tenets for any security service agreements, both during the pandemic and throughout recovery. Legacy CapEx style maintenance agreements typically don't offer these remote services, and if they do, then they charge an additional fee. So as cost saving measure, then security as a service style agreements will be seen as viable service alternatives. In terms of market movement, we can anticipate consolidation as a result of the economic period that we're in. We can expect portfolio realignments, divestitures, and acquisition of point solutions as we move to recovery. And after a period of slow growth over the next few years, we can anticipate a growth trajectory that will rapidly bring the industry back to pre-pandemic levels. Because after all, security is an operational necessity. So that is all from me. If you have more questions that we don't get to during the Q&A, or if you want to know more about what Frost & Sullivan does, then feel free to shoot me an email. And I look forward to discussing more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Georgia. We'll try and take questions at the end of presentations by all the speakers. Our next speaker is Mr. Jason Curated, Group General Manager of Allegiant Southeast Asia. Jason has more than 20 years of experience in Southeast Asia, with 15 years in door hardware and electronic convergence with Siemens Voss Security Technologies, as well as Allegiant PLC. He has been a member of Allegiant's Asia Pacific leadership team since 2016 and is co-founder of Siemens Voss Business Activities and Operations in Asia from the year 2000 till 2016, since it has been subsequently sold to Allegiant. Jason is also a council member of the Singapore Manufacturing Federation since 2016 till today. He's also chairman of the Building Product and Construction Materials Industry Group, which is also a part of the Singapore Manufacturing Federation since 2016. He's also past vice president, treasurer, as well as current committee member of the Security Systems Association of Singapore. Today, Jason will share with us on opportunity of seamless access in the new normal. Jason, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anthony. Kara, you want to tee up the slides? Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, audience. Thanks, Anthony. Good afternoon. It's a privilege to be able to spend a few minutes this afternoon to share with you some thoughts concerning seamless access, especially in the light of COVID and post-COVID environment. First, I'd like to thank SAMS, as well as the Security Association of Singapore, for organizing this seminar. For those of you unfamiliar with Allegiant, We're a global provider of safety and security products and solutions. However, my responsibility is focused more around Southeast Asia. For over the past 20 years of living in Asia, primarily Singapore, I've witnessed a number of economic and market disruptions. The Asian financial crisis, SARS, various unrest in different Southeast Asia countries. However, I personally believe that the COVID pandemic over the past year or so will have far-reaching and lasting impact on our security and safety industry. Next slide, please. Wearing masks, social distancing, tracking apps, temperature checks, health declaration, work from home. And one of my particular favorites is trying to exit a shopping mall these days and finding the various exits all blocked and having to walk way around the mall to exit. All part of a new norm, reshaping how we work, how we live, and how we play at unprecedented rates. Many people, including myself, are re-examining our daily routine with health and well-being in mind. And we're looking for innovative solutions to promote healthy environments and peace of mind, which are practical and convenient. And to formulate these and secure this future new norm, solutions must be reimagined to meet the new challenges of today. Rush to digitalization, changing work patterns, the need for touchless solutions will significantly drive these changes. Evolution towards seamless access will affect many aspects of the built environment and are far-reaching. Next slide, please. The impact on the build and security environments is far-reaching, as I mentioned, impacting the architect on design and material and integration of different integration of architectural features and functions and spaces, security providers and integrators, facility management companies, the building operators and owners, and most importantly, you, the consumer, the employee, and the family members. Opportunities for seamless, healthy access across all environments are present, home, work, and communities. This can range from stuff that's quite simple, from cleaning application, disinfectant practices, to surface technology and solutions, to touchless automated mechanical access control, to mobile and remote access and workforce management, all leading to a seamless access and a safer world. I'd like to share with you a short video that showcases seamless access of the future from Allegion's perspective. This video, which shows both home and a healthcare setting, represents our company's vision of what seamless access could be and the opportunities seamless access offers, not just for innovators, but people and communities where health and safety is expected to be prioritized alongside convenience. We just don't want to be responding to changes and needs. We want to also anticipate them. So with that, let's take a look, if you can run the video. indeed exciting times ahead for our industry. I'd like to just share a few areas which Allegiant Seamless Access vision, where we, as well as the broader industry, are already experiencing an increase in demand due to COVID. One area that I don't have a slide for, but which I'd like to mention is the changes in ingress and egress, as well as the management thereof. Solutions to better manage and allow safe ingress at locations such as emergency exit doors. For example, adding electronic locking devices, exit devices that link both to the fire alarm system for safety, as well as security systems for access control, or areas where we see increased demand. And as you see here in the slide in front of you, we're seeing increased demand in antimicrobe coatings and solutions. Here we have a silver ion antimicrobe coating on locks and exit devices and accessories, which specifically is formulated to inhibit the growth of bacteria. Now, it doesn't kill bacteria, but it minimizes the presence of it because it can't multiply. And this is just one area where we're seeing increased demand from both building owners, retrofit, and industry is seeing this even for new builds. I know there's a case in Singapore recently that had a requirement for this. Next slide, please. Also delivering solutions around touchless access, touchless doors to help basically just prevent the spread of viruses. As research indicates, viruses can survive on metal and glass and plastic for as long as 9 days. If we're able to have doors open automatically, touchlessly, we then minimize the risk of virus and the spread of virus infections. So touchless door hardware that reduces this contact either by automatic or by some sort of manual solution is in demand. Next slide, please. And if you see, it's really across all different types of verticals besides even healthcare, which was demonstrated in the video. We see an uptick in this in educational areas, multifamily, and particularly in areas of commercial buildings. Commercial buildings, the main entrances and the lobbies, and anywhere where they can choke points that they can minimize contact with doors. We see an uptick, and we think this will be something that will stay, a trend that will stay in the market. Next slide, please. Beyond this, for automatic doors, it's really adding other touchless ecosystem. And here's a portfolio company of ours, OpenPath. And here we've added to the traditional automatic door, an exit device, an access control system, a wave to unlock. Here, the young lady there has a mobile phone in her bag. It's paired to the access control. She approaches the door and she's able to wave, and securely she's able to open the door and gain entry without having to contact the reader nor the door. Again, these are really in demand now, and we're seeing more and more uptick. Next slide, please. As well as we get areas with a sensor as a software that provides data insights for decision-making around social distancing, as well as smart cleaning protocols. And here we have where they're collecting data on where people move around an office setting. And here you can see highlighted in red areas where people have congregated or visited. And this can be identified for cleaning or for improvements in social distancing. And this is all where visualized previously is being driven on higher adoption by COVID. Next slide, please. So Allegiant, we're united around the common desire to protect our communities and innovate for tomorrow. We strive to provide a peace of mind to those trusting in our protection. We have a lot of different leading brands over almost a century, including Schlage, Simons Voss, Chisa, and Von Duprin, and a portfolio of 30 total brands, bringing safety and security and peace of mind to the places we work, live, and play. I'd like to thank you for your time today, and I welcome your questions at the end of the seminar. and also have a fantastic weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Our next speaker is Mr. Walter Lee, evangelist and head of NEC Consulting. He heads up a team to evangelize and support corporations and government agencies to transform to the new normal with Society 5.0. He was previously the SVP Fellow at the Agency for Science, Technology and Research, Singapore, and CEO of the ECOP group of companies, specializing in cybersecurity consultancy and services. Walter was the executive director at New Life Community Support to families and youths in need. He is also a business mentor at the National University of Singapore, Institute of Engineering Leadership. Walter will be sharing with us on Beyond 2020, getting ready for the new and next normal. Over to you, Walter.
Anthony, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And a special thanks to the two previous speakers. I'll be referring a lot to George's presentation of the market analysis. Let me just share my screen right now. Make sure I got it right. Okay, just a second. Strangely, it is not. Okay. Let me run the slideshow. Okay, you should be able to see it right now. Ready? Anthony, is okay, right?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to jump right in to share with you, as we read a lot of reports from companies such as Frost Sullivan and the analysis from the market analysts. This is our outlook for the coming months and years ahead. So on 11th of March, a very grave situation, a pandemic was declared. And of course, that has a severe impact on all aspects of our life. Having said that, there are three specific areas that I would like to focus on. How the pandemic has impacted law enforcement, the movement of people, essential services, and how this is all driven by the need for even more cost sensitivity and how we can be even more efficient operating in this very strange global pandemic that we're facing. And of course, right now we are right here, right? In the new normal. We're right in the middle of the pandemic. And you heard a lot from Georgia about contactless solutions being needed. And true enough, yes, we're seeing that as well. And how do you do contact tracing, the track and trace, as well as automation, remote operation using UAV or UGV. So it's about unmanned operations and how do you get additional insights as well from the many data that is coming in. And last but not least, as we move out of the pandemic, because of the availability now of vaccines, and I always have this comment about vaccine is that we need to believe it works and use it, right? So a vaccine is useless if we don't use it. But in the coming 18 months, which is next year and beyond, we are preparing for more aspects of advances, for example, in 5G, and we are focused on standalone 5G and how that can be used in many different solutions, and how new solutions have to be secured by design. And last but not least, NEC, being strong in AI, have been working very closely to provide AI-driven solutions for vaccine design blueprint discovery. And of course, the catchphrase right now is zero-touch automation. Now, how do we have a high-touch customer care in a zero-touch automation environment? And that's a big question, right? So specifically, for example, in security, I mentioned 5G, and you may be wondering what has 5G got to do with safety and security? Well, first and foremost, it makes more accessibility to the IoT devices that you're going to have, greater speed, lower latency. So in Japan, we work with NTT Docomo and a security company called Allsoak in Japan. And we are able to look at, for example, how you use drones and how you use a standalone 5G to monitor situation on the field. So we see that more such use cases will emerge even as we move to the new and next normal. The good news is that, of course, that POC and pilot that we did last year was very successful. And now we are now working actively with NTT Docomo to roll out such solutions, both in Japan as well as in other parts of the world. Now, more immediately, of course, law enforcement continue to make strides, right, into the next normal. And we're looking at law enforcement and contact tracing solutions using AI. So that is from clearance to contact tracing, you're able to see who are the people at risk. This can be two kinds of risks, right? This can be risk due to diseases or counterterrorism that is coming back again. And last but not least, we show you here a picture of one of our staff wearing a face mask. And I always say that it takes a good crisis, right? Or bad crisis to cause us to be innovative. Because before the pandemic, a lot of biometric solutions company, including NEC, will say that, when you're using facial recognition, you shouldn't wear a mask, you shouldn't wear a veil. Guess what? Because of the pandemic, companies like NEC, our facial recognition will work with a mask on, right? So technology will adapt. Technology will try to support the situational needs that we have. And this is one such example. Now I want to sum it up by showing you a very short clip of how we are deploying such solutions, not just for customers, but for our own operations. We are eating the lunch that we cook, so to say, and how we operate securely in the physical environment as well as in the online environment in this new and next normal. So take a look at this short video.
As the world goes through increasingly extreme and rapid changes, so do the needs of NEC's customers and employees. In order to excel in this ever-evolving landscape, it is vital for NEC to maximize the potential of our employees while adapting to their needs and preferences. Designed to be frictionless, NEC solutions empower NEC employees within our premises, allowing them to work and operate smarter. This drives seamless integration between various touchpoints, such as endpoint devices, meeting spaces, and retail outlets. NEC is creating an environment which allows ideas to flow freely, encounters to happen naturally, and synergies to develop organically. These initiatives drive the fusion of physical and digital environments, allowing for countless work combinations in real or remote settings. It is also NEC's responsibility to ensure that employees feel safe and secure at all times. By having a transparent view of key touchpoints across the building, employees are able to optimize their physical movements through the day. These solutions will also extend to NEC's guests, allowing them to enjoy a higher level of personalization and safety. NEC is creating a workplace which adapts to the needs of its 100,000 group employees. A workplace which allows for a personalized experience across physical and digital realms will ensure that employees work safer and smarter. NEC iDelight utilizes NEC's cutting-edge biometric and digital identity solutions to deliver a safe, seamless, and secure experience for employees and customers alike.
Orchestrating a brighter world, NEC.
Indeed, we look forward to a brighter world. This is my last slide. We are also in acquisition mode as we prepare for the next normal. We have acquired, among many other companies, these three big companies. In Denmark, KMD, which specializes in digital government solutions. Northgate in UK specializes in law enforcement, and last but not least, a US-based company, Tessent, that is very strong in biometrics and iris in particular. With that, thank you very much for your time. I will hand you back over to Anthony. Anthony, thank you.
Thank you, Walter, for the very nice show. Last but not least, our final speaker for today is Mr. David Chadwick. David is the Director for Identity and Biometrics for Unisys in Asia Pacific, with overall responsibility for Unisys identity and biometric related initiatives in the region. This includes R&D, sales, consulting, and delivery activities. Based in Canberra, Australia, David draws on a background that spans law enforcement, immigration, passports, and a broad ICT experience to understand the problems, challenges, and processes that private and public sector agencies operate within to help develop innovative and workable solutions around identity management. David has more than 18 years law enforcement and 12 years of federal government experience, with the past 14 years being specifically focused on identity and biometrics. Before joining Unisys, David developed innovative biometric and identity solutions and capabilities for the Australian government. Today, David will be sharing with us on security and identity in the new normal. Over to you, David.
Thank you very much indeed. And I'll just do the slide sharing thing, and hopefully we can all see that. And thank you very much indeed for your time and for inviting me to speak tonight. It's always a problem following someone like Walter, who comes from a very famous company around biometrics, but I'll try and actually just build on some of the points that Walter very well made. The purpose of the whole approach that I want to take with this conversation is looking around, because I'm an identity and biometrics guy, I have been for a long time. So when we look at the security in the new normal, there's lots of different lenses that we can use. Georgia spoke at length there about the financial impact on markets and supply and demand. We've heard about new technologies, and of course, some biometrics. My focus is on identity, right? I say to people when I'm talking about identity, it's about who are you and how much do I care? Right? Having worked in government, we cared a lot about identity as opposed to perhaps normal access control where your risk is a little bit lower. A lot of governments are moving to a identity-centric model to enable the use of identity as a risk treatment so that we're not always treating everybody the same. We're trying to address how much we know this person, how much do we trust them. At the same time, we're seeing a lot about identity theft, and I use air quotes because no one can steal your identity, but by crikey, they can steal your identity information or your credentials. In Australia alone, last financial year, $3.2 billion worth of losses, okay? We need to improve both our credentials, but most importantly, the systems that use them. So one of the things I just want to talk about briefly is the Unisys Security Index. This is a Vox Populi, a worldwide, 15 different countries, been running since 2007. And it asks a series of questions of people so that we can get an indication of their feeling about national, internet, financial, and personal security. I just want to bring this up because one of the questions we talk about is identity theft. Now, you might think in Australia, when I'm looking specifically at Australia, this survey was conducted in March, right? Now in March, COVID was in full swing and the floods had just put out the bushfires. Okay, it was a pretty horrible time. And as you might imagine, 57% of people have been either extremely or very concerned about natural disasters. Only just pipping out identity theft as the #1 concern. Is that just a one-off? No. As we look at the last 4 years, we see that consistently identity theft is pretty much the #1 concern of people. And this is replicated throughout the world. So identity theft and this use of identity information, especially as we're moving into online world, is something that's a very great concern for people. So that's all very good. We're obviously very concerned about identity, and so what? Well, let's have a look at just one of these key industries that was brought up by Georgia so well earlier, and that's air travel. Because air travel is enormous. It's everything from the huge ecosystem of the airlines through to tourism, through to restaurants and hotels and everything. Countries like Australia, like New Zealand, if we're looking around our part of the world, we're destinations. We're not a hub like Singapore. And so tourism is absolutely critical for us. Education relies on air travel. So IATA tell us that this forecast of where the travels were, and literally this time last year, I was giving presentations about new ways of innovation and facilitation so that we could deal with the huge increase in passenger travel. Well, that kind of dropped off this year to around a quarter of what it was globally. And IATA have got an enormous range of uncertainty here, where it could actually, even in 2024-25, still only be half of what it was. So air travel is going to be a very, very important thing to get back up and running. And how are we going to do that? Well, masks is where I'm going with this. And you folks up there in the north of Australia have been doing this very, very well for a long time. Asian cultures have practiced wearing masks as long as I've been traveling up to Hong Kong and further. Probably accounts for why places like Taiwan have only got 7 deaths out of COVID, because this immediate societal approach of putting on a mask as soon as you're feeling a bit sick. A lot of Western countries not only dislike, they distrust wearing masks, right? There's real, even in Australia, there's a real distrust because we're used to looking at somebody and seeing them speak. Okay, so there's no doubt about it that inoculations and masks are going to be the key drivers to the recovery of this. And the impact of masks, and Walter mentioned this very, very well, the impact of masks on identity verification is really significant. And there's going to be a reluctance to remove masks in crowded spaces, especially airports, right? It's going to impede passenger movement. It's going to create a lot of concerns. So, and I have to do it. I try not to, but I've got to get a little bit technical because Walter touched on this. I just want to dig in a little bit deeper so that you've actually got some indication that both I'm not telling porcupines and neither is Walter. Can we do face biometrics with masks? Well, humans can do it actually pretty well. We can all immediately see that is President-elect Joe Biden, right? Humans are really, really good at this. Machines use the eyes a great deal for face biometrics, but they kind of need the rest of the face too. Now, there's an organisation called NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and since 2002, they've been running the face recognition vendor trials. This is a little bit of an acronym slide, and I'll just take through it slowly, right? And they test face recognition algorithms, and they do it exceptionally well. And Patrick Grother, who's been running it since that time, produces these wonderful, incredibly complex reports. But it's probably the world's biggest, genuinely independent analysis. Right, this paragraph, let's just work through this. Without wearing a mask, so me just like this, presenting and verified against a photograph of myself the best algorithms in the world, and I'll give you a plug here, Walter, NEC is one of them, will falsely reject me only 0.3% of a time when I've got a threshold that's only going to allow 1 in 100,000 imposters. All right, so we're not just doing face recognition, we're doing face verification against a really high imposter threshold. So we really, really don't want anybody to pretend to be me. This is the type of matching threshold that we use at the border. A false accept rate of 1 in 100,000 imposters. With that false accept rate, the best algorithms only going to reject me 0.3% of the time. Maybe I've shaved off my beard, put on weight, lost weight. With masks, they found the best algorithms had only a false reject rate of 5%, which might seem a lot compared to without masks, but when you consider that 70% of the face is occluded, and we're only going to lose 5% or impede 5% of genuine travellers with border crossing levels of security, that is utterly astounding. And I think Walter said it very well. In what, 6 months, I think people think we've jumped probably 3 or 4 years worth of technology. In fact, the quality of the 1:1 algorithms today with masks is as good as what we were doing in 2017 without masks. So quite frankly, for someone like me who's been in the biometrics industry for the last 17 years, that is utterly astounding. You do need a quality enrolled image. The NIST report did show that you need to have that passport quality, good quality facial image to compare against. If you do, you can get a 90 to 95% recognition with wearing a mask with a border crossing level false accept rate, right? Which is absolutely astounding. And it means that we can actually start to look at really moving through the airports again and still being able to be identified as we need to. So in conclusion, we know that identity verification, and I'm specifying, this is 1:1 verification. It's really important for critical high-risk transactions, border crossings, really secure access controls. But we don't want to be removing masks unless we have to, especially in crowded spaces, right? That's really going to cause problems. So what we now know, and now we can actually not just take Walter's or my advice on this, we've actually got really good independent testing that says 1:1 face verification is possible with masks in a really, really good manner. You do have to know your algorithm, because some algorithms had a 40 to 50% loss of inaccuracy. Some of them were extremely high. You do also have to be able to figure out how you're going to deal with exceptions. Right? Not everybody walks up to a control point and we're welcome, David, and goes through. How are you going to deal with that when you've got queues of hundreds of people? However, you can actually start moving that way. 1:many, 1:N, we say there, hasn't been tested yet. They're not expecting that to be very good, especially in a surveillance situation. But 1:1 is very, very good. And if we made these sort of leaps in the last 6 months, imagine what we're going to do in the next few years. So that concluded what I had to say. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions in relation to this.
Thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to our question and answer segment. I'm sure you have many burning questions, and we will now be answering as many as possible. Firstly, a question for Georgia. On the opening slide of your deck, the growth chart showed a second dip in growth rate from Q3 2021. What is the cause that would cause this impending dip according to Frost projection?
Right, okay, so on that slide, we saw a spike expected in Q2 of 2021, and that's partially due to the low base effect relative to the growth before, but it's also contributed to partially by strong pent-up demand. So that will also influence the high growth. And then it will kind of normalize coming back to the pre-COVID forecast that we had.
Thank you, Georgia. Next, we have a question for Jason. For a secure yet safe environment, what are some other potential areas for security application of touchless technology?
Good question, Anthony. One area I would guess that first pops to my mind, and I think it was depicted in the access, seamless access video, but I think in Asia in particular is around the lift. You know, that vertical security, and how do we bring in touchless access into the lift environment to keep from pressing the hall call button or your individual lift floors for buildings. I think that's probably the first thing that pops into my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. We have a question for Walter. What are the most pertinent security solutions during and post-pandemic?
Yeah, I was going to say half jokingly, you know, the most important security solution during the pandemic is your mask. Jokes aside, I think AI is playing a big role now during the pandemic and post-pandemic. As I mentioned earlier, NEC supported the discovery of vaccine with our AI technologies. And moving forward, I think in a very online, touchless, contactless environment that we're going to operate as we move forward, there is still more data that we can collect. So big data, analytics, and AI will continue to play a big role in enhancing safety and security. So my bet is AI and big data analytics.
Thank you, Walter. Next, we have a question for David. The question is, can surveillance systems also benefit from the new algorithms when subjects wear masks?
Thanks for that, Anthony. That's actually going to be a very interesting question. The problem with surveillance systems is they're, almost by definition, they're not standards compliant, and face recognition is very much standards compliant. So we have camera to face angles that are, because the cameras are up high, we have uneven lighting. So we will not expect to see the same level of matching accuracy. However, what we are seeing is the algorithms have improved to the point where I would actually start, a year ago, I would have said surveillance systems would be useless when you're wearing a mask. I would actually now start to expect, and I'll be interested to see if NIST do some further research on this, that in fact, they won't be useless. I think they will actually start to be useful. Still nowhere near as good as 1:1, but 1:few for your entry points, depending on the size of the gallery. I actually think they will actually start to get some benefit from these new algorithms.
Thank you, David. Next question for Georgia. The question is, why the demand for security contracts will be decreasing? One of the participants thought that we need more security staff to do enforcement for safe management measures. Over to you, Georgia. I think you're on mute.
Yep, sorry about that. Yeah, and especially because most or many of the people watching this, I believe, are in Singapore. So we did see that there was a manpower shortage of security personnel in Singapore because of COVID. But I do think that moving forward, there will be a future decrease in the need for personnel as processes are more automated. Using the technologies that we heard about today, like biometrics and big data and AI, then there will be less of a need for as many personnel.
Thank you, Georgia. Next question for Walter. What are the latest developments in biometrics and artificial intelligence relevant for security solutions?
Well, thank you for that question. In fact, there's a similar online question that came out. I will answer both at the same time. The question came from Tiong King. It says, besides facial biometrics that have improved tremendously, how about other non-contact means like iris, palm veins, etc.? So he has helped me answer the question. So I'm going to show you just one chart because it illustrates some of the latest. So we talk a lot about facial recognition, but there's a lot of other new developments. Finger vein, voice imprint. It means not just voice recognition of what you say, but you can know who I am just by me saying hello, for example. And last but not least, something that, of course, iris, as you know, is becoming very important now. And actually, in a contactless environment, iris is pretty good because you do not sacrifice any accuracy issues when you're wearing a mask, right? So yeah, the iris recognition still work. Now, jokes aside, a friend of mine did ask me, Walter, you have big eyes, so you're okay. My eyes are very small, would there be an issue? And he was only half joking. Indeed, you can have issues if the person is squinting their eyes or anything with iris recognition. So you've got to take care of that. Last but not least, my favorite, ear acoustic. Guess what? We can recognize who you are just by an earpiece on your earpiece here. Without you talking at all, there's no sound from the earpiece. It's an inaudible signal that we send, and it traces your eardrum, and your eardrum is unique regardless of your earwax. So those are the latest development that is fantastic for security purposes. Because for the earpiece, right, it's very good for policing. The police do not say, yeah, this is David, and while he's in a very secure environment, right? Once you put on his earset, you know that David is there. He's all ready to arrest someone. Okay, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. There's a follow-up question for you, actually.
Okay.
How the security system be prevented from being hacked?
Oh yeah, that's a big one. The good news and the bad news. The good news is that cybersecurity solutions are getting better. There is also what is called AI being used in cybersecurity right now, whereby you're doing something that's more predictive, meaning that unless this individual is referring to biometrics, how the security system being prevented from being hacked? Because from a larger cybersecurity perspective, I'm just saying that there's a lot of advancement in AI technology. But if Abiso's question is specific to biometrics, the answer is that there's such a thing called anti-spoofing, meaning that you must be able to detect that this is the real me. This is not a video that I just put up. This is not a fake video of me, and that this is also not me wearing another person's mask. So this is called anti-spoofing technologies. These are AI technologies that are being developed, and we use them. And that's very important. If not, your biometric is terrible, right? You can spoof it. So that's a very good question, because indeed you need to have anti-spoofing measures.
Thank you, Walter, for the wonderful answer. Since your answer is so good, one of the participants have another follow-up question for you. The question is regarding the point on inbuilt earpieces. How will this work for the hearing impaired?
Oh, this is okay. Oh, I think the question is, if it's a hearing impaired, right? If I put on this, there's two possible reasons. The question: I put on an earpiece, then I could not wear my hearing impaired device. Okay, the answer, the good news is that the earpiece that we put in can be for two purposes. It can operate as a normal earpiece. That means you can still hear things, and it will also transmit that special imprint signal. Okay, so it doesn't affect wearing of earpiece. Second, maybe the question is there a sound, right, coming from the earpiece for nothing? In fact, it's just like a normal earpiece. The moment I put it on my ear, the system identify that it is me. So we actually use it in hospitals in Japan. All the nurses, they put it on, and we know the nurse is operating fine in the hospitals and the doctors.
Thank you, Walter. We have another question. Perhaps either Jason or David can chip in. The question is this: as shown in one of the videos, it looks like facial recognition biometrics will make credit cards or other similar payment systems obsolete in the future. Is there a timeline on when will these systems be available commercially?
All right, I'll give that one a go. So face recognition does one thing. It seeks to prove that this person standing in front of the camera or whatever it is the person that has been previously enrolled, okay? Or in the case of a border crossing, that I'm the person contained within that passport. But if you're talking about that access control, if you're talking about access to a bank or an ATM, then it would involve being enrolled. So there is, from an ATM, let's take an ATM perspective, because that's something controlled by a bank. There are already banks who are starting to explore facial recognition as one of the ways, or it could be a fingerprint, or Walter mentioned the finger vein technology, quite popular in Japan. All of these biometrics are just ways of trying to confirm that the person standing there is the person who has been enrolled and is therefore able to do it. So there's nothing to stop it from happening apart from societal acceptance of biometrics and banks willing to take that step in investing into it. I think you've already got ATMs in Japan. There we go. Walter's put something up now. I'll hand over to Walter.
Yeah, David, you're quite right. This is a picture from Taiwan. Our friends in Taiwan, right, decided to have an ATM machine just using your face. Isn't that wonderful? So yes, we run it. In Japan, we're using our face for our payment while we shop, as I shared you earlier. The jokes that I received was, Walter, if I walk up to the ATM and I'm very unhappy because my wife asked me to draw some money, will you be able to detect that? Technically, we could, but we don't care whether you're happy or you're not. You're not, right? So we even have emotional analytics. If you're looking at wanting to look at stress. Jokes aside, other than ATM machines, ATM in the future may go away, right? Into a cashless society. Your mobile phone, your mobile device will be your ATM, and facial recognition of course work on your mobile device. So to answer the question is, yeah, absolutely. I think credit cards, like signatures, will be long gone, and passwords will be long gone, and biometrics will be the mainstream.
Apple Pay is probably one of the first examples of that, where I can pay using my phone and do biometric confirmation, not to the bank, to my device. So, yeah.
Thank you, David and Walter. We have another question. This is a general question, perhaps for the panelists. What are some future security concerns to watch for?
I'll start off and then hand over to one of my colleagues. My biggest fear is and Walter brought this up before, is the spoofing. Do masks get to the stage where I can pretend to be Walter and go in and get discount at the NEC store? Do I have the ability to start spoofing somebody's fingerprint? We know Matsumoto has spoofed finger veins. So there are the twins, there are the very, very close cousins. There's also, and I see Glenn Cameron there in the middle, there's also the, what if I've lost a great deal of weight, perhaps I'm ill, and the bank says, or my phone or the ATM says, that's not David. How do I deal with that? So those are some of the things that I think about.
Yeah, well said, David. I couldn't help. Yeah, this is a real mask. We actually created a mask that is of the Mission Impossible standard, right? And we wanted our AI engine to be able to pick out which is a real person, and we could do it, thankfully. Yeah. So now with twins, I must say, is tricky. Huh? The answer is yes and no, because sometimes you can do it if you go through a much deeper analysis, and they will take too long for normal clearance. So that's the issue. I'll add on to what David just mentioned, and I think for me, the greatest security issue moving forward is cybersecurity. And the reason is that everything we are doing, even now, right, has gone online. And guess what? Cybersecurity will continue to be an issue that we will face. It will continue to go ahead of us. We will continue to create solutions to try to catch up. but it will continue to be a very big issue moving forward.
Thank you, Walter. We have, yeah, sure, go ahead, Georgia.
Just to add a little bit on that, I completely agree with Walter's last statement.
We can't hear you clearly, Georgia.
Can you say that again, Georgia?
Can you hear me now? Is this okay?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Good.
I was just saying that I agree with what Walter was saying about cybersecurity being the biggest concern. We saw that because of the pandemic, there has been a slowdown of physical security incidents, but that there's been an increase in cyber attacks. So even though this was a concern before the pandemic, it will only continue to be one of the top concerns. And especially in APAC, where there is like 40% of the world's data centers. So it will continue to be something very relevant, not only for APAC, but the whole world. So.
Thank you, Georgia. One final question for the panelists. Will safety and security industry converge faster into a single entity, or is already happened? And how soon the security industry also converges potentially with other industry verticals like healthcare, transportation to create new markets? For example, there is reported research that surveillance cameras can be used to monitor visual biosignals. Perhaps this question for you, Georgia.
Yeah, we do see it converging. And basically we can think
Yeah, a bit too soft.
I feel like better. I'm yelling. Is that better?
That's better.
Basically, we definitely see security as horizontal across all industries, right? And so it will play into all kinds of ways that it will be implemented. How fast will that happen? I mean, it's happening already, right? So it's just something to watch as it evolves and to continue assessing as it changes over time, and to keep assessing it that way.
Thank you.
Let me just add on to what Georgia mentioned. I think, and to Tiong King, thanks for the question. I think Tiong King must be from the security or AI industry, because absolutely many of the technologies are horizontal. For example, a lot of our video analytics solutions were not originally designed for physical security. They were designed for autonomous vehicle, because as the car moves forward, you got to look at all the objects, right? And then that is actually the mass market application. And yes, there are solutions now allowing us to detect our breathing and our heartbeat just by looking at our face. Yes, it's workable now. Just a tip, for example, how do you detect breathing while just looking at my face? While I'm breathing, right, the temperature on my lip here changes with my breath. So the temperature that can pick up the temperature change will be able to calculate my breathing rate. Like David right now, right? Let's say his face is flushing, right? And our flushing is based on our heartbeat. Yeah, Georgia is flushing too. So when you flush, and that the camera can pick up the flush on our face and pick up your heartbeat. And it's actually available now in UK.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the very engaging and insightful Q&A session. Before we conclude our session today, let us welcome Mr. Chia Y Hong, Project Director from Conference and Exhibition Management Services Private Limited, who will give us an introduction to Safety and Security Asia 2021. Over to you, Chia.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, let me just put the slide on. Okay. And thank you to all our distinguished speakers for their earlier presentations. I'm Chia Wai Hong, Project Director in SAMS. organizer of this webinar, and I'm here to make a brief introduction of one of our longest running trade show called Safety and Security Asia. First held in 1991, Safety and Security Asia 2021 is a well-established and proven platform for product suppliers, technology vendors, and solutions and service providers to gain access to business opportunities, as well as to further learn the trends in the security industry in Singapore and the region, especially in the new normal. SSA 2021, the 19th event in the series, would be held at the Sands Expo and Convention Center, Marina Bay Sands, Singapore, from 30th of June to 2nd of July next year. SSA 2021 is organized as part of ABS, Architecture and Building Services 2021, a conglomerate of 6 synergistic trade shows catering to the whole built environment value chain. These trade shows are organized as an initiative under Building and Construction Authority's Build SG, a national movement that encapsulates the spirit of collaboration in the transformation of the built environment sector. SSA 2021 is co-located with 3 other trade shows closely related to the safety and security industry, namely Fire and Disaster Asia 2021, WorkSafe Asia 2021, and also IFAME 2021, an International Facility Management Expo. At SSA 2021, we offer exhibiting companies 7 unique propositions. First, we offer a ready, captive, local and regional audience of some 3,500 security, fire safety and protection, civil defense, workplace safety, and facility management professionals from the related concurrent conferences. For these conferences, we have a captive audience. We assure attendance of key buyers group through CPD, PDU, and SDU accredited conferences organized by or jointly with relevant trade associations and professional bodies. Thirdly, we offer an additional 8,000 walk-in built environment professionals from across the 6 synergistic trade shows. Fourth, as the whole event is now a hybrid event, the virtual exhibition of SSA 2021 would offer a 24/7 global audience. Fifth, at SSA 2021, exhibitors are given opportunities to use the business matchmaking program to make advanced appointment with pre-registered visitors and conference delegates. Proposition 6, we offer all companies in the security industry the opportunity to participate in the prestigious Malayan Awards, a recognition for innovative and cutting-edge solutions, technologies, and products for the security industry. And finally, SSA 2021 exhibitors are able to enjoy the hospitality package of lunch and free flow of coffee, tea, and drinks over the 3 days. The package is included in the participation fee. On this slide, we would like to point out the various highlights during SSA 2021. This would consist, first of all, at least 5 concurrent conferences, seminars, and workshops for the security, fire, and safety industries, all to be held on the show floor. In addition, there will be national groups coming in from China, Korea, Portugal, Singapore, and Taiwan, with the Singapore Pavilion being organized by SSAS, Security System Association of Singapore. For this Singapore Pavilion, eligible Singapore companies are able to enjoy financial support of 50 to 70% of their participation costs. Besides the national groups, special products pavilions covering the tech sectors that include smart FM technology and robotics, UAV, and automation would be organized. A pavilion for Malayan Awards winners, as well as one for companies involved in outcome-based security contracts, would also be organized. A unique feature of SSA 2021 is the 13th Malayan Awards, which I have highlighted earlier. And for the first time, SSA 2021, together with all the concurrent trade shows of ABS 2021, will be organized as a hybrid event with a 24/7 global audience for its virtual exhibition. On the next slide, we would like to highlight the 10 to 12 concurrent conferences being lined up with SSA 2021. Security, fire and safety, as well as facility management related conferences are highlighted in blue and gray here. Some key conferences being planned include the Security Industry Forum, which takes a more in-depth look on outcome-based security contracts with case studies on day 1. Fire Safety Managers Briefing, which is tentatively on day 3, and the IFMC, International Facility Management Conference 2021, also on day 3. On the next slide is the floor plan showing the layout of the whole event. On the plan, we have highlighted the various national pavilions like China, Korea, Portugal, Singapore, and Taiwan, as well as the 4 special products pavilions mentioned earlier. Also on the floor plan, you can see the locations of the 3 conference rooms within the exhibition halls, where almost all the concurrent conferences will be held. Next, we would like to point out the main partners involved in SSA 2021, and this would include USE, Union of Security Employees, our strategic partner for the security conference, and SSAS, Security Systems Association of Singapore, our strategic partner for the official Singapore Pavilion. Our other partners would include Frost Sullivan, our strategic knowledge partner, and Singapore Industrial Automation Association, our official technology partner. To participate in SSA 2021, we offer various options. Companies can participate either as just exhibitor in the hybrid event, or in addition, also as sponsor. 2 exhibiting and 5 sponsoring options are available. More details of this, as well as for the virtual exhibition, may be requested from us. Finally, thank you for attending this SSA 2021 presentation, as well as the security webinar. For more information on SSA 2021, please call or WhatsApp me at 65 9689 0152 or email to chia@cems.com.sg. See you at SSA 2021. That is all for this presentation today. Thank you again for your attendance and have a very good evening. Back to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon we have heard from subject matter experts and leading security solution providers regarding modern trends of physical security and some new technological initiatives in the security industries. Indeed, with continued innovation and new security tools for businesses, enterprise security risks can be mitigated in a cost-effective manner to ensure safety, security, and organizational resilience, so as to seize growth opportunities going forward into the new normal. We have now come to the end of the webinar on securing the future in the new normal. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank keynote and speakers once again. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Bye-bye.